Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for taking our time. So yes, credit is definitely not a bad thing. And I'm living testimony to, to a lot of businesses, and I've seen how a lot of businesses have grown over the years using credit. So this is generally even pharmacies, non-pharmacies, structured businesses, small scale businesses. So credit is not it doesn't discriminate. You can apply credit at every point in your business. So I just want to point that out, and I would speak more on this in terms of the details as to some of the myths that you may have heard about credit, and it has probably given you a mindset about credit. And I believe that once we are done with this presentation, you have a better understanding of the essence of credit. So credit is, it's very important that we understand what it is, what it presents for us, and how to utilize it. So as I was saying, credit is a good thing, and then we'll be debunking a lot of the myths of using credit. And I mentioned already that, as business owners, as entrepreneurs, we are strategists. And, in running your business, it's very important that you make strategic decisions, So as much as we have options to support your business, you do a lot of research. It's very important that any decision you make or you take is data driven and is also strategic for the business growth. So you want to expand your business ultimately, you want to grow from point A to point B. It's very important that you assess the status of your business at every point in time. It also helps you to understand whether, by the time you apply a particular strategy, if it was successful or not. So we'll look at some of the myths in using credit, and particularly trade credit in this case, especially for ShelfLife. So one of the myths, that you may have heard about credit is that credit facilities are only for emergency situations. And I want to assure you that that is not the case. Half the time, you make better decisions when you are not under some form of pressure. So it's best to evaluate your business at different stages and say, okay, I'm making a current revenue, I'm generating current revenue of this amount. And based on what Esosa has mentioned, you've done an analysis of your environment. You've realized that I require to, stock up some certain, drugs in my pharmacy to be able to generate more revenue, to be able to meet the demand of my community. And at that point, you're able to, be analytical, to be strategic and say, what do I need to be able to enable me provide these services to my customers? And at this point, you're not under some form of pressure. You're not under, it's not an emergency situation. You're able to think clearly, evaluate your options. So credit facilities can be proactively used to support strategic investments, especially with stock ups. Based on our price fluctuations and the rest, you can assess your business and say, I have looked at the trend and I've seen that in the coming months, based on my history, I have a lot of customers that place orders for, say, a malaria medication, for instance. And on the basis of that, I'm going to use my credit facility to stock up in anticipation for that. So at that point, you're not taking credit because it's an emergency situation. You're not taking credit because you just have, one particular order that you want to fulfill, and then you're just drawing up your credit on that, which is not a bad thing. But what I'm trying to emphasize is don't always wait until it's an emergency situation to assess credit. And it's very important for us to understand the reason for credit in the first place. So credit is not for day-to-day consumption. As much as we want to debunk myths, we also want to clarify. So credit is good, and credit is not for day-to-day consumption in terms of, you want to buy something, you want to buy something outside of your business operations, for your personal consumption. As much as a lot of people do it in reality, but that's not the essence of credit. Credit is supposed to help you to fill a gap in your business financially. And of course, you have to be sensitive of the impact of that in your business, because the essence of business is continuity. You want your business to be a growing concern. So you have to ensure that what you plow into it, you're going to see it in financial growth as well. Also, part of the myths that a lot of us have in terms of mindset, which is also, something that limits us from access to credit, is the fact that you feel you need a perfect score or to obtain credit, or and is only suitable for large pharmaceutical companies. That's not true. You know, especially for shelf life. We have a lot of our pharmacies that, they've started business operations. They don't have a history of credit with a commercial institution, or they don't even have a credit score per se. They've never taken any credit before. They're starting from zero in terms of credit facilities. So when we do our regular credit checks, we don't see any history to work with. But the great thing about Shelf Life is that we're able to help our customers grow from not having any credit history to having a robust credit history that would even be ultimately beneficial. There's a point to which you grow your financial credit that once you approach a commercial bank for, say, an asset financing, or you want to pay for a new location, they will see that, oh, this customer has a credit history. You have a credit history that you've taken funds, you've repaid funds, they're able to leverage on that. So unlike some financial institutions, and especially in this case for Shelf Life, you don't have to have a perfect credit score to obtain credit. And, it's credit is available for businesses at their different stages of growth. Once you're starting a business, of course, there's a lot of risk that you're trying to avoid, but you've taken up your business, you've already started understanding your market dynamics, and now you want to grow. So it's very important that you understand what stage your business is at and what your particular credit need is. So again, small businesses, and I will reference some of our PPMV customers, with their different stages, their different growth levels, they access credit facilities. So you don't have to wait till you have 5 branches or, before you feel like, oh, you're big enough to take credit. No, you can still take credit when you're still in one location, you're still trying to grow, your revenues. You can obviously take credit, to grow in that regard. Another myth that, where oftentimes, it's a misconception about credit. And this is not to say that there are no credit facilities that, are expensive. But in this case, credit facilities are too expensive is a myth. So once you're applying for credit or you want to use credit for your business, there are key indicators that you have to look at. First of all is the issuer of the credit. And in this case, it is a Shelf Life's managed credit facility. And the great thing about Shelf Life's managed credit facility is that it's coming to you at practically no cost, right? Half the time, if you go to a financial institution or another provider, or worst case, perhaps people say credit is expensive because they go to loan sharks, right? If you go to a structured financial institution, it's very important that you are also advised on the importance of the credit and also the financial implications of applying this credit to your business. But for Shelf Life, interestingly, you're almost receiving credit at no cost, right? You have the option of, paying over a period of 6 weeks, 4 weeks at zero cost. If you also compare, your credit line with, your other purchases, if you're buying on cash, it's the same price. If you're buying on credit, it's the same price based on the number of days that, you have taken. And the great thing about Shelf Life is that there's a payment plan and there's clarity. You can see that, this facility I'm taking is at no cost. A lot of times we often say, oh, this is not a loan or it's not credit, but any facility or any product or funds that you're taking without paying on the spot is credit. So even if you're going to take 2 days, 3 days, is a credit facility. And as a business, you're very cautious of costing. You need to ensure that, oh, do I understand what the terms and conditions of this credit that I'm assessing is? This is one of the issues why, you take a credit facility and then you don't read the fine print, and then a customer or a pharmacy gets into that situation. But credit is not expensive with Shelf Life especially. So another interesting part is it's a line of credit essentially. So perhaps you have a 1 million or a 2 million facility approved for you. And the great thing is you can draw down on that facility. And the more you keep paying, the more the facility is replenishing, right? So if you take 1 million and then you're paying within the second week, the third week, as you're paying down, it's opening more access to that credit for you at zero cost. You don't have to, go to a financial institution and pay, a particular amount on a monthly basis, whether it is a fixed rate or whether it is reducing. You don't have to pay processing fees. You don't have to pay management fees for your account. So it's very important that you understand the kind of credit that Shelf Life is also offering, to you. At this point, I know that a lot of us are aware of, our current MPR rates in terms of lending rates, but even from the banks now, you're seeing interest rates as high as 3% per month, 4% per month, and this is not to say that this is expensive credit, but based on the nature of your business, you have to look at your margins. What can I accommodate within my margins of my business? And where do I assess the credit that is most suited for my business? Some transactions can have margins as high as 20%, per month, perhaps contracts. But if you're a day-to-day pharmacy, you're looking at your margins and saying, where is the best place to assess credit that will not present itself as expensive to my business? And if you ask me, trade credits in the form of Shelf Life managed credits is practically the best that you can assess because it's coming at no cost. You're able to, turn over those values at no extra